We don't know much about the recently announced Division 3, but damn if there is not an endless stream of speculation, hopes and dreams for the game. And I am indeed here to throw a little wood on that fire with 6 things I want to see in Tom Clancy's Division 3. Let's kick this off with an obvious one and something that I feel will be on a lot of players of the first game's wish list. You already know what I'm going to say before I say it. Snow. Man, I miss the cold, unforgiving streets of New York that so many players fell in love with. I mentioned it in my Division 3 announcement video, but to me the snowy streets, back streets and plazas were part of the Division's unique identity, with our characters running around in slouch beanies, thick coats and outdoor boots. Don't get me wrong, I like the sunny DC map of the Division 2, but in comparison to the first game, the Division 2 has never felt as hostile or immersive as the New York City of the Division 1. So, at a minimum, I would want to see the Division return to a winter setting. But, and this is a big but, could you imagine if the Division 3 actually cycled through all 4 seasons? Hypothetically, it would be great to see a game like the Division 3 have an endgame season model that gave us all 4 endgame seasons in a year. The seasons could rotate with real life seasons, with each literally changing the game's map to represent that season. Winter, spring, summer, fall. I know that's a big one, but tell me that wouldn't be crazy. Next up, I want to talk armor/health kits. The Division 1 had an instant use health kit, the Division 2 had time to apply armor kits. And I feel like the change from the first game to the second was quite polarizing, with some people thinking the change was a step in the wrong direction, and others thinking it was a more realistic approach to healing. I kind of sat somewhere in the middle. When it came to PvE, I really didn't mind the Division 2, however when it came to PvP, the change to hold a button to use an armor kit really killed the dual style PvP 1v1s of the first game. If you've only ever played the Division 2, that might sound a little bit odd, but in the first game, PvP had longer encounters that focused more on countering the other player, using well-timed skills and well-timed health kits, opposed to simply burning the other player down. Where I'd like to see this go is an evolution of both systems that creates something that takes both and uses them to add more flexibility and depth to the way we heal our characters by simply giving our health or armor kits a dual function. A quick press could use up one, let's call them armor kits for now, but only heal for 50%, or a 2-second hold would heal you to 100%. This would give you a quick oh shit button for a fast heal mid-fight, or a stronger option if you manage to break line of sight for a couple of seconds. Or you could double tap, healing 50% for each, giving you a full 100%, but obviously this would cost you 2 armor kits instead of 1. I feel this would open up more options in both PvE and PvP, giving you more ways to take advantage of healing. Then, of course, we could get gear sets that expand on this, adding different effects to armor kits, like cleansing status effects or giving short damage buffs at the cost of the percentage of healing. This is a quick one, but something that I really think was downgraded from the first when we went to the second, and that's the social areas. I know this sounds odd, but pre-Division 2, the subway station under the Division 1's base of operations was always a busy little area where players would hang out, team up, or just dance around using emotes. And for some reason, outside of the White House in the Division 2 just never quite hit the same. Maybe this is just nostalgia goggles talking, but the slightly more social side of the Division franchise is something I do miss in the second game. Next up, carrying on from the idea of making the game a little more social, or not if you don't feel like it, I'd love to see the open world of the Division 3 have a toggle between private and public. So what does this mean? During the last beta for the first Descendant, they had a button that would flick from public to private before you travel to an open world area. Basically, this means you can either share your world with other players or have your own personal instant all to yourself. With the Division Resurgence mobile game launching with a shared open world, I can't see why the Division 3 couldn't also do this. Imagine hearing gunfire close by, turning a corner and joining the fight with other players trying to take on a heroic control point. Or what about a flare players could fire off? It would blip on the map and be visual in the game's sky, so nearby players, if they wanted, could head over and give you a hand. This also opens up new open world activities like world bosses that might need multiple players. And if you really don't want a shared open world, you can simply toggle it to private for some peaceful farming. I feel like this would open up The Division 3, making it more of an MMO light, which could definitely add to the game's longevity. Alright, it's time to talk about the hot topic of The Division 3, the location. I've heard a lot of players ask for Chicago, maybe go back to New York, and a bunch of other places. But what if, instead of having a single location, we had agents that travelled around different cities in the same way the Guardians of Destiny 2 travel around different planets? Think about it, we could have a large open base of operations for a social space, where we gear up and get ready to head out, then we would travel to another city in the same way we could move between DC and New York in The Division 2. This could make adding new cities as DLC pretty viable, as we travel around different parts of America. Within reason, of course. I'm not saying we have our agents travel to the east to west coast on a regular basis, that's just cruel. And finally, for God's sake, please let us have one big Darkzone again, and while we're at it, let's get that player count back up. Moving from The Division 1, which had a 24-player Darkzone, to The Division 2, which had 3 smaller 12-player Darkzones, the magic just went. The first game had so much space that players could get in and do whatever they wanted, pretty much wherever they felt like doing it, with the help of the UI and the map. PvP players could find a good sized fight by checking the near constant rogue blips. Farmers could farm the DZ landmarks using distance of the last player killed to see how far away the PvP was going on, and griefers could use completed landmarks changing from purple to grey to track down PvE players, in a way that was fair for the farmers as well, with the landmarks changing after they'd been completed, opposed to while people were fighting there like in The Division 2. Plus, with the size of the Darkzone map, all of this could have been going on with a huge amount of space in between, so it was much easier to sneak to a safe area and pop off an extraction. The Dark Zones of The Division 2 felt like they were more trying to be forced death matches, and don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun in the DZs of The Division 2, but they just didn't have that lawless, always watching your back atmosphere that made the Division 1 Dark Zone such a special place to be. That's it, they are a few of my hopes and dreams for The Division 3, but I want to hear some of yours. What do you want to see, or not want to see, in The Division 3? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you liked anything I mentioned in this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.